Hi there. I just want to ask you a quick, simple question actually. Have you ever wondered just how fascinating that we human beings have become? We went straight from discovering fire to thousands and thousands of years later discovering the full possibilities of our universe. My name is Nathanael Gracio, and this is the power of science. And no, I'm not going to talk about science in a theoretical way or any kind of way that's resembling to our daily learning in school. So you can just sit down and relax, maybe try to grab some coffee or some snacks and enjoy my speech. As you can see here as fellow student in high school, when I talk about science, I think what goes through most people's minds are these concepts and subjects that are incredibly menacing and extremely hard to even get some sense of understanding of what the hell is even going on, right? While I'm not really into that kind of mindset, nor do I agree with it, I think I do understand where they came from. You see humans simply hate what they don't understand, right? And the same goes with science, especially when we know just how science is being taught and approached here by most schools in Indonesia. It's still not that very good. So it's no surprise to say that science is still not that well liked by the majority of people. And of course, to make this speech a lot more personal or a little bit intriguing, I'm not going to complain all the way through this speech. I'm going to add some of my own experience and story that involves science. And it's like a little personal anecdote. You see, when I was 9 or 10 years old, I wasn't really academic. In fact, I really hate science and math. And when I think about it now, was it all because of my lack of talent? My lack of IQ, for example. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to do any of this science and math. Maybe I'm just not made for this. And because of that, I spent the majority of my time being in front of my computer. Until eventually I found out about this thing, it's called programming or computer science, and I found it really fascinating. It's really interesting. And I feel like it's like the answer to all of my problems because first, it's really fun, and second of all, it doesn't require any form of social interaction. You know, growing up, I was always the least social person in my family, and I had a hard time forming relationships and making emotional connection with people of my age. And thirdly, because I think programming won't involve any kind of science or math, so maybe I'm just gonna be good. I'm not going to suffer or anything like that. Only to find out later that science or computer science programming was actually a math-based subject. But I simply didn't care. I didn't give a flying damn about it. So what if it's science, if it's math? I found it intriguing, I found it enjoyable, interesting, then I'm going to keep studying it. And I think that was the beginning of my journey to really starting to like science, since it wasn't until high school, freshman year in high school, that I really began developing this sense of understanding and liking towards science more and more. So at that point in my life, I realized that maybe IQ isn't the only thing that matters when it comes to science. And no, I'm not going to talk about IQ, that IQ doesn't matter or anything like that. I think IQ does matter, especially when you know that some of the best scientists in the world are also people who had the highest IQ. But what I'm saying is IQ is not the most important thing, especially when we know just how science is being approached and taught here in Indonesia. Our curiosity is often killed by other people, right? They often say that science and math are these subjects that are incredibly hard, they're not important, they have no practical use in our daily lives, so why bother learning it? Why bother learning calculus or physics, for example? And it doesn't bring you a lot of money, doesn't make you rich, and lastly, it doesn't have a lot of job opportunities. I think those kind of mindsets are what killed our potential future scientists. And to make things worse, sadly in Indonesia there are still some schools who taught science and math in a memorization way, not in an understanding way, which is one of the most ironic things that I found about our education system. Since the root of science is understanding, it's not memorization, right? And why is that so, I wonder? Because sadly, I think there are some quote-unquote teachers who are not really into teaching themselves. They are not really into the subjects that they teach. So this endless cycle of low human resource are really hard to break in Indonesia. And because of that, I might be wondering just what can we do about it, right? Since complaining and whining all day won't solve the problem, we have to do something. And the answer to that question, I think, simply don't exist because there are a lot of variables to take into account. There are cultural differences, other people's thoughts and behaviors, and our overall society education. So I think we can try to reduce the mindset by simply taking a look at ourselves and think that if I were in that position, what would I do? Am I brave enough to take my own decision and think from my own future? Am I brave enough to decide my own life and my own future, since you are the one who's going to live your own life, right? It's not your family, it's not your parents, and it's not your friends. And I think those kind of approach towards science will give a lot more less prejudice towards science, especially by the majority of people here in Indonesia. And to wrap up my speech, I want to say that, you know what, I think a lot of people still wonder just why is science so important? Why do I talk about science all the time? What does science bring to our life? And since, as far as I can know, science has no daily practical use, right? Well, to answer that trivial question, I think is by looking at what science truly is. You know, science teaches us how to think, not what to think. And those kind of thinking will develop our own critical thinking skills, our problem-solving skills, and how to think outside the box. And I'm sure as hell those things will matter in our lives. It will bring a lot of benefits, and you're not going to be easily fooled by other people, and you're not going to make decisions based on your feelings. You're going to be more objective in a general way. And that's why, in conclusion, I think science is really amazing because not only that it teaches you how to think, but it also can almost explain everything, and when I mean everything, is like everything. It's our human bodies, for example, our behaviors and minds, our surroundings, our planet, and our universe. And that is really what fascinates me. So, in conclusion, thank you for listening. Those are my 2 cents, and I'll see you next time.